Hi, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Chat On with GYC Vegas, recorded and produced at the Video Podcast Studio. I'm your host, Gina Yager, founder and director of GYC Vegas, an award-winning PR and marketing agency. We believe every company has a story to tell, and we're passionate about getting businesses recognized. At Get Your Chat On, we sit down with local professionals to get to know a little about their organization, their role, and their perspective on our vibrant business community here in Southern Nevada. On today's episode, I'm joined by Josh Leavitt, a Las Vegas local who's become a legend in our tech community, a CEO and founder of Tech Alley, Integly, and IONnovate. Josh has transformed Nevada's economic landscape, uniting our tech and startup communities and turning the region into a hub of innovation. From his early days as Chief Information Officer for Maverick to founding Nevada's only private post-secondary software engineering school, he's been bridging industry and government, advocating for STEM education, policy, and mentoring the next generation of tech talent from city halls to classrooms. Hi, Josh. Thank you so much for joining us.
I love the intro.
Isn't that
you.
a cool bio?
Yeah.
When you see it said in live and on the air.
That's right. No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Tell us about Tech Alley. That is where I met you, and that's I know you have other careers and other companies that you founded, but let's start with that one.
Tech Alley. So Tech Alley is a nonprofit organization that we created. Here in Las Vegas was to ignite the tech and startup scene. Here, I was a big advocate of workforce development, and when you mentioned in my bio that I was a CIO at a time, I couldn't find any talent.
Okay.
And so the whole thought was, hey, can we create, that talent? We didn't mention here, but I grew up in Vegas. So, I always joke and say I knew 3 careers growing up. I knew construction, and that was my neighborhood. Cop, and then I knew, working at the resorts.
Right.
And that was
on the
it.
strip.
Yeah. And I realized during my efforts that a lot of the youth that are out there are, have the same sort of upbringing, and they really only know 3 jobs. That's what their parents do.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's this whole nother avenue of technology. So my focus was, hey, could we introduce them to a community full of people within the tech and startup community? So that's one of the reasons why, Tech Alley was created was, well, let's just bring everybody together into one spot so that we can make the sharing of knowledge simple.
Okay.
And so we host events, started here in Vegas in 2021. We started them in Reno, in Denver. It's currently in Henderson, Nevada, as well as in New York City as well. And that was it. Just create a place for people to exchange knowledge and engage the startup ecosystem. So and now it's transformed more into like an association. So we offer support and resources and a way to collaborate with other groups and so on. So it's definitely growing into something far beyond what I envisioned when we held our first meetup.
Right. When I first heard about it and went to the first event, my first event, I thought this was something that had come from Silicon Valley. This was something that had came from a bigger market. That's just the feel that I had. And when I learned that it was founded by a local who had, this vision, I was really impressed.
Yeah, and really, you credit so many people for the idea, right? Because you mentioned that we did a coding school, and I wasn't a founder of it. I helped start it, so I actually left my job as a CIO and worked for a nonprofit where we taught technology training and helped people get into jobs.
Okay.
And the only software development school in Nevada left. And so there wasn't any. So the nonprofit said, well, we got to solve that. And so they put me in charge of helping start that coding school.
Okay.
And one of the things that I did is I'd host meetups at that space. And one, it was a great advertisement to get people into your campus. And 2, it was good for our students. And it was a good community give back. So I met a lot of people in the meetup space. But word got out, hey, there's this tech scene. And this guy from Irvine, California came in and said, hey, I heard, Tech Alley, or not Tech Alley, but Punch Code was a place.
Okay, Punch Code.
Is where the tech scene is. I said, sure is. There's all these meetups. He goes, no, I'm looking for this one place where people just come together and exchange ideas like a flea market. And I thought, yeah, we don't have that here, but it planted the seed of could we create that? Could we just make it so that everybody goes into one spot? So, it's funny. There's a lot, people say there's ways that change the direction you're going. There's so many pathways that eventually got us to where we are today. But there's a lot of input that came into it, but eventually it turned into what it is today.
Speaking of your background, your journey to today, what are some of those key milestones that shaped your path from the corporate world to becoming an entrepreneur focused on Nevada's tech scene?
You know what? I'll say this. It was 2011 or 12, and the governor at the time, Sandoval, came up with a new Nevada initiative. And they wanted to, that's when they said, all right, the Great Recession hurt us. And so we have to diversify our economy. We're going to go with the entrepreneurism and the technology. And as anybody, predictability is key. So reading that document, I went, all right, well, that's good to know. And we're a helicopter company. That's what Maverick was. And I said, well, if I can't find talent, and talent's an accelerator of business, we're going to be in deep trouble if we now have a huge growth in demand for that talent. We might be priced out of it. Then how are we going to compete for any of the tourist dollars that are out there? Because we're competing against the hotels or anybody else that was out trying to attract tourists. And so that's when I said, all right, well, let me start going to high schools and talking to kids and find out what our talent pool is really like. And I'd go there and I'd talk about careers in technology, and I'd say, hey, raise your hand if you have any family members that are in technology, and nobody would raise their hand. And that's what I said. I related to it, and I just fell into technology. I wanted to be a salesman, a truck driver. I don't even know what I was. Technology was the last thing in my mind. In fact, my wife was the one that would just do the computers, and I had no interest in them at all. But you just realize that there isn't this foundational support that our students have. And here's something. You hear that our education school in Nevada is the worst in the country. It's always they're in the 50th.
Right.
And but if you look at the metrics that they base that upon, it's not academics. When it comes to academics, I think we're like 16th or 13th. I mean, it's not bad. It's our chances for success, and that they look at the community and the parents and their immediate support and say, what kind of education do you have? What kind of jobs do you have? What do you speak English? Are you going to preschool? And this is Vegas. You can make a lot of money and not have a college degree. You can probably make a lot of money and not have a high school degree.
Right.
And so you have this good education system that are teaching kids, and I've witnessed it. Hey, they want to be a software developer. They go to school for it, and then they go to their parents and they say, "Hey, mom and dad, can you help me go into software development?" And they go, "I have no idea how to get you there,
right? But
I can get you a busboy job or whatever for $50,000 or whatever you're making." So this idea that we could build the second layer of support, this community support, was something that was pivotal. So yeah, it was that Sandoval really put me on that workforce development path. I ended up leaving my job, in 2017 to work for a nonprofit that focused on helping build that talent pool.
Which nonprofit was that?
So that's a Tech Impact.
Oh, Tech Impact. Okay.
Yeah, and they would do free training. The coding school wasn't free, but they had a program called IT Works, free training in the IT, and then we would help them get jobs in the field. And then COVID hit, and I thought, well, disruption creates opportunity. Let me just jump out and see what we can create as a business. So I started a business. My wife thought I was crazy because I finally developed a great team, and then I jumped ship. So I started a business, and then that was when I reached out to the city and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing for entrepreneurs? Here?" And they said, "Well, not much. That's LVGA's job." And I said, "All right, LVGA, what are you doing?" And they said, "Well, we support it, but we're really looking at the bigger businesses and focusing on that." And I went to Reno, EDON, their economic development. I said, "What are you guys doing?" They said, "Josh, read this book by Brad Feld called Startup Communities. And that's what we're basing our ecosystem on." And I read that a couple of times, put up a blueprint, gave it to the city of Las Vegas, and they said, "If you can make this work, you got our support." And that's how it all came about.
Nice. And what's the company that you developed in during COVID? Tell me about that.
Oh, so that was IONnovate.
Okay. IONnovate.
So the focus around that was I had learned a lot. So, we'll talk about something else. We can talk about the startup scene because Tech Alley is, tech and startup scene.
Yeah.
So, again, more on my background, I was in banking, and then I was in a CIO. So very adverse to risk, in both these things. And so when we were putting the coding school together, and we had students, and our focus was we wanted to get them careers. You do what everybody here in Vegas does. You go to the casinos and all the big names, and you say, "Hey, be on my advisory board." And how can you help us get people jobs, right?
Uh-huh.
And I realized, and I don't mean with disrespect, but they like to give advice, but they weren't hiring any of these developers. And so, you had to reevaluate things and you go, well, let's stop looking at the pretty people in the room. Who's the hungry people in the room? And they were the startups.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up bringing in startup founders and bringing them in, and they were doing mentorship, and they were teaching these students, and then they were hiring these students. In fact, we had a 94% employment rate after the program. But one of the things I realized was it wasn't sustainable because it cost $30,000 to $60,000 to upskill a junior developer.
Okay.
And at that point, developers are in such a high demand, 6-7 months in. Now these guys have guys and girls have this experience. Now they're getting recruited.
Uh-huh.
And so what kind of startup would want to invest that type of time and money to upskill somebody that's going to leave?
Right. Want to keep the talent. Mm-hmm.
So I might as well just go to, Israel or India or Mexico or wherever and get that talent for cheap. At least I know at least I have a talent pool here and I know what the relationship is like. So I created IONnovate as a way to mitigate that risk. So I said, if I could create a program like a launching pad where a senior developer is the intermediary between a company and that junior developer, and then have the opposite of a non-solicit. So I give that company the ability to hire that junior developer. It's almost like a try and buy scenario, and we can compete with the international market by blending the rate of that senior and junior developer. Mm-hmm. And it worked. And, it proved. In fact, I just built the company to prove a point. And I would tell people to steal the idea. Mm-hmm. But so that's what I left with IONnovate. Mm-hmm. And we created the state's only first software development apprenticeship program at that point. But the whole focus was we have a lot of good talent. You just have to introduce them, and show that, one, reduce the risk of hiring them, and then introduce them into the opportunities to get hired. So it was a fun project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tech Alley's become a hub for entrepreneurs, startups, and innovators. How do you foster that culture of mentorship and collaboration with that group?
You just bring them together. That's the beauty of Tech Alley. It's community run. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the website, I don't think you see me at all because I don't want it to be about Josh, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole thought process is I don't want anybody to think anybody even runs it. They just know that if they come together, there's this big event.
It's just a community, yeah.
Yeah. And I took the model from First Friday, and if you're not familiar with that, that's where the artists, big art community gets together. Right. Same sort of thing. Who knows who runs it? All I know is every First Friday you get there. And there's a lot of food trucks and so on. So it's community run. All I do is pay for the venues and help make sure everything is set up and take everything down. But after that, I don't tell the session hosts what to say or do or anything. And I don't know if we went with this, but how Tech Alley is formed, where the events are formed, is that we rent all the venue spaces, and then meetups take on those spaces and share that knowledge, right? So people can go to different sessions, they can go to no sessions, but it combines, you might have a software development meetup and then Kurt's meetup, Who's Got My Money, which is real popular about investment and startups. Okay. They're intermingling and then or they're having their own sessions and they start intermingling, and next thing you know, things are going to the next level. For instance, people call Tech Alley the accelerator of activity or the place where you find your co-founder, because people are starting to share ideas and collaborate, and next thing you know, they're out there trying to raise funds.
They're opening a business together.
They're opening businesses together. Yeah.
Uh-huh. That must be really rewarding to see.
I'm always impressed by it. In fact, in my other company, you talked about it here in Tagley, is the consequence of Tech Alley. I always say this: entrepreneurs, they have a brain that's wired differently.
Uh-huh.
You have to be around to really appreciate that. We were talking a little bit, and I was talking about the coding school and being adverse to risk, and that was sort of my upbringing. Mm-hmm. But when we transitioned and began working with startups to work with our students, I was blown away by the way that these folks thought. Right, nothing was impossible. I mean, they would their brains, or you see their eyes sort of roll back almost as they're really dwelling into, maybe we can make money off of this, and they're going piece by piece by piece. I remember one of them doing a 5 why exercise. on my boss because my boss was complaining about government being in the way of progress of our coding school, and so there was no excuses. It just was do it, and or why not, right?
Right.
And so I had an idea, and we'll talk about Tagly real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here I am. I'm trying to run IONnovate. I'm trying to run in Tagly or Tech Alley, and I'm just finding no time, right? And I always like to share ideas, and so I had to tell myself, Josh, ideas are easy. Execution is everything. In fact, I put it on the back of my wall, right, so I could look at it. It was always there, and I said, I'm not going to share any ideas unless I execute on that idea.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And so, and I was doing that. I just wasn't sharing any ideas. And then one day, well, I'm on the state's STEM board and our advisory board, and we had a discussion about STEM jobs. And I asked the question, well, what's a STEM job? And I don't think I really got a clear answer. So, needless to say, I looked at what STEM was and realized they're trying to teach kids how to ask why and solve for why. They're building entrepreneurs here, right? And so I said, well, how can we build off of that? And I thought, well, every library in the state of Nevada should have 3D printers. That way, if a fourth grader is building a Lego set and they can't find a piece, they should be able to go to the library and print it out, and they've solved their problem. And maybe we can create a culture of just solving my problem. Instead of talking about it, they're executing on it. Mm-hmm. So we're giving them the means. And I was asked by the city to give a presentation about Tech Alley and the entrepreneur ecosystem. And like a dummy, I went up there and said, I got this idea. We put 3D printers in every library in the state of Nevada, right? Uh-huh. And then I went, oh, crap, now I got to make that happen.
I promised myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I started visiting libraries. I started, realizing why a lot of them didn't have 3D printers, or if they did, why no one was using them. And there was these age restrictions, and it was all grant funded. So I was trying to work with them, trying to raise funds, come up with ideas so that everybody can have access to it. And to get to the point, I thought, well, why didn't the universities do 3D printing for the libraries? Because they have these big maker spaces. I presented that idea to one of the universities, and they were dead against it. And they had every excuse for why it wouldn't work. And I always laugh and say, entrepreneurism seems to be built off of people telling you no. Because I was like, no, we can make this work. And I was like doing my whiteboard, and I was working it out. And eventually they said, it's going to cost us this much more money and this much more manpower. And I said, well, why don't you cluster and partner with another group? And I said, oh, actually, why don't you Uberify that idea? And I circled that, took a snapshot of my whiteboard, brought that back to Tech Alley, and I presented it. I said, here's this concept. Instead of the libraries having 3D printers, why don't we use the community to do the 3D printing for the libraries? So libraries offer it, but now it goes out to the community. Somebody in the community does the printing and then delivers it to the library. That way you can scale to the community without buying any hardware. Mm-hmm. And I said, so take that idea and make it happen. I just want to see it happen. And one of the entrepreneurs in that crowd said, hey, Josh, I want to talk more about this. And after about a half an hour, I said, I want in. I like this idea too. And about 6 months later, we launched it. So that's in Tagly. And it's now a scalable business. I mean, it's across the United States. It does libraries, it does B2C, it does drop shipping, it does manufacturing.
Wow. So anyone that wants 3D printing done, this is a community. Someone will grab the project, print it for them.
They upload it to the two-sided platform. You upload it to the platform. It finds somebody in the community that will print it and then ship it to you. And it's quick and easy and priced very, very reasonably because, at least on our end, there's no overhead, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So were you still in partnership then with the guy that had the idea? Brought it to you?
In Tagly?
Yeah.
Well, I had the idea. He just...
Yes.
I was just trying to pitch. I was
trying
to take
structure. Yeah.
I was trying to tell them take it. I just wanted to see it happen, and he got to talking to me about it and got me excited about it. Said, you know what, I think we could make this work. Mm-hmm. So it's a big learning experience. Right now we're running a scalable business, but I did that out of talking to people at Tech Alley because it's not intuitive. I don't think running a business, especially a scalable business, is very intuitive. Mm-hmm. It seems like the opposite of what you should be doing, right? Mm-hmm. Everything's about balance sheets, and so they teach you balance sheets and P&Ls and all this stuff, but they don't teach it. No, wait a minute, let's go off risk. Maybe your idea is the most valuable thing and commodity that you have. Your books might look like crap, but at least you're moving forward on this concept and this idea, and you're getting buy-in from folks, and then it just goes crazy. So yeah, I mean, we make money in our sleep. It runs completely without us, and it's highly scalable. So it's really an interesting ride. But I learned everything. I still learn everything I'm doing based off of what people are telling me, that they've done or advice from Tech Alley.
From the community. It seems like such a big endeavor to build a community like that. What are the steps that took place?
Oh, to build like a Tech Alley community?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you.
From the ground up.
we had the blueprint. Well, we had the book, Brad Feld's book, Startup Community, and one of the key points was that entrepreneurs lead the ecosystem. It's not the government. It's not the school. It's entrepreneurs, because they have what it takes and the know-how to move forward on ideas. They'll create that mentorship and that excitement. They'll act upon things. So we had to get the whole idea is, well, let's get entrepreneurs to lead this. Second is there's no patriarchs to the ecosystem, meaning there's not one person that you have to visit or see or entity. In fact, I always say this, and Tony and I see Tech Alley as a continuation of what Tony Shea had built and was doing. In fact, I give the crew that did the jelly, and I still talk to them quite a bit, as the folks that created the meetup scene, in Las Vegas. Tech Alley just was a way to bring them all together. But I look at what Tony Shea did, and I say, God bless him. He really did a lot for the community, but he inadvertently became this patriarch to the ecosystem, where people had to go through him to get to the resources and the money and to the know-how, which meant you had to go through all of his gatekeepers to get to him.
Right.
And so there was a roadblock there. And my thought was, well, could we make everybody in the community a Tony Shea? Could we make everybody somebody that could share their knowledge and their network? So if somebody was sitting at a bar or a cafe or what have you, and said, hey, I got this idea, I'm going whatever, I want the person next to him to say, hey, I like your idea. Let's talk about this. Let me get you connected to the people that can move forward.
Yeah, I love that.
And one of the driving forces as well was a gentleman, he's the CEO of Be Right Back app. He came here to Vegas, and we were talking. He goes, Josh, when I first came to Vegas, it was like this. I wanted to play soccer and felt like I had to build a stadium when all I wanted to do was bring my ball. And I thought, well, how can we create that stadium, right? In fact, if I was ever going to write a book, it'd be called Building a Stadium. So I tell you that Brad Feld's book is the heart, the DNA of Tech Alley, of what we started when we were building this tech and startup community, ecosystem. And the zero-sum game when it comes to the supporters of the ecosystem. Let the entrepreneurs lead it. It's a give first philosophy, and so on and so forth. So my part was. And I never thought myself as a leader of the ecosystem. I still don't. I'm a supporter or an instigator, if anything, of the ecosystem. Well, let's bring people together. Let's help create that creative class. Let's have that mentorship, and let's just make sharing knowledge simple. And then let's see where it builds. Now, I'm under the opinion, and I think there's evidence to it, that we're ready for that next stage of the entrepreneur ecosystem. We can't have it surviving off the shoulders of people that just want to do good and see things happen. But we need to get to that next step. Just like businesses, there's a life cycle here. I think we witnessed it in Reno. I think we witnessed it in Denver and in other ecosystems where it has to evolve. If not, it's going to go stalemate or it's going to decline.
How do you think it should?
I think we need bigger players to get involved in this. I think we do need government buy-in at this point and put in long-term strategy and efforts, just like Cal Sandoval did in 2011 with the New Nevada Initiative. Right? We need local leaders to say, this is our priority, and we're going to put resources and our names and so on behind it, but still following a blueprint, like what Brad Feltz did or what other communities are out there. But the question is what happens? What happens if Tech Alley ceases to exist? Or right?
Right.
Well, we're running into an issue right now where the city and the owners are doing paid parking at where Tech Alley has been hosting for 4 years, right?
Right.
And Tech Alley has 3 principles. One, it's inclusive. Tech Alley is inclusive, which means anybody can participate, which is why we don't host them in bars, because that immediately cuts out anybody under 21. And we've been given venues for free at bars, but you can't take it because it's 21. That it is accessible, which is why Tech Alley is free. But now
Then you got to pay for parking, right?
that's not free anymore. It's no longer accessible. So we have to find a solution for that. And then the third principle is consistent. In Vegas it's every third Saturday, and Henderson it's the last Wednesday of the month, and and each chapter has their own schedule. But I follow those principles like the Bible. And we're running into a situation. There's now paid parking. It goes against our principles. How are we going to solve that? So we're working on a solution for that. But it's ready for that. The Vegas needs to evolve. It definitely needs a much bigger player. It needs to be something on its own. People say we need to be the next Silicon Valley. I scoff and say, we want Silicon Valley to be the next Vegas, right? That's what we need to do. But I hear a lot of great things about Silicon Valley. In fact, I got a good friend that's was a business partner for Intagli that's there now, and he's telling me all the wild things are happening in Silicon Valley. So it's
that must be interesting.
It is interesting.
I love that the principles that you have for Tech Alley and the way that you started it being where everybody is accessible to each other. It just plays off of you being a Las Vegas native, and that's just how this community really is. It's so open to, oh, you don't know so-and-so? That person can help you. Let me connect you with that person. Yeah. That's how I run my business. That's how I run just me being a professional in the Valley. Yeah. I enjoy that part of connecting people with other people. And I think learned that and just instinctively was interested in being that person for others, because that's how everybody I met is here in this town.
Yeah. How long have you been in Vegas?
I've been here now 24 years this May.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's almost my entire career. I started a couple of years in LA and then moved here. And at a young age. Yeah.
I always say if you get past the second summer, you're a native pretty much, right? That first summer's like, ooh, that really happened? And that second summer's like, oh, it did. I'm out, or I'm staying. I'll be all right. But you're 100% right. Vegas is a small community within a big town, and everybody seems to know everybody. They're 3 degrees of separation.
Right.
And I mean, I grew up, I was born in 72. So I grew up 70s and 80s, and I don't think there was a million people in the state at that point, right?
So you've seen a lot of
and
growth. Yeah.
We again, everybody just knew everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think we have a service culture here as well.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. As soon as you break in and you get to know some of the folks, it's really easy to engage their network.
Yeah. I love that you kept it that way. So speaking of kind of what's next, Nevada, future in tech, but we can say future in Tech Alley because you talked a little bit about kind of the evolution. But what's next for Tech Alley? Are there other, whether that means the growth here in Nevada or whether that means the additional chapters that you're building throughout the country?
I always say this, right? Tech Alley is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. And my goal is to turn the lights off, shut the door, and say, job well done. We did it, right? We solved our problem. We fulfilled our mission. And so it could be, I look forward to the day we can do that in Vegas, to the point where Vegas breeds collaboration and communicate. The stadium's built. Let's just say that. But I see Tech Alley is a role, at least as a national organization, to be that association, to be a bigger connector, to provide the right types of tools and the mentorship and share our know-how, leverage the data that we've gathered. It can't be just about events, and that's what we're sort of moving away from. I won't say moving away from, but evolving from.
Okay.
Events are unstructured, right?
Right.
You get together, you have this great collaboration, and then everybody kind of goes away, and then you got to wait till next month to regroup. Right. And I thought, well, how can we continue that conversation every day beyond? Right? It doesn't have to stop.
Right.
And so we're working on those pieces, and I think a lot of it's going to deal with partnerships, and Tech Alley doesn't have to do it all. I think Tech Alley can still be the hub, maybe, but maybe be a hub as an organization and with other organizations, and not just be about events. So we're looking at that. That's why I love the partnership with like the Vegas Chamber and other chambers that we're having, because as I said, startup entrepreneurs, again, they think differently. And you might not know this, maybe you do, but in 2023, Vegas was ranked the top pre-IPO startup community or city in the country, right? And it was just great. And everybody was patting themselves on the back.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, that's cool marketing, but let's really look and see why that is. And the big reason is because a lot of people are relocating here, right?
Right.
And so I'm saying, well, we're not really developing our own high-growth startup entrepreneurs, right? We're just getting the benefit of all these entrepreneurs coming here. But if we're not going to blend that talent with the current talent that we have, and let's say California says, hey, guys, we messed up. Come on back, and,
right.
and entrepreneurs leave, and we didn't blend that. Well, we're in some big trouble,
right?
So we need to get our business community engaged with these, high growth entrepreneurs, that will pick their brains. We held a session at one of the chambers, and in fact, I want to have a continuous session where it's like an uncomfortable, controversial kind of thing. Where it just basically is like, you don't know what you're doing. And I don't mean it like that, but to the effect where it just makes people really think, oh, wow, I had no idea that's a way to run or to attack a market, or I should be trying this. But anyway, we're doing a session, and one of the people in the crowd said, hey, I have this idea. How do I protect this idea if I go to like a Tech Alley event? And another person, Kurt Walker, we were talking about with Who's Got My Money. He immediately said, you don't protect it. If you're not sharing it, you're losing out, right? And he went much more articulate. But I learned the same sort of thing. If the last thing you want to do is hide an idea, and you want to share it, because if someone steals it, maybe you weren't going to really execute on it anyway, right? and so. And so, I think it blew people's minds. And I think really,
I was in the room when you had that conversation.
Oh,
I was at that event,
yeah.
and I remember that. I think the guy was like, "Oh,
yeah," and that's what I thought. I thought, there's so many things that I go, "Wow, really? I would never even dream of pursuing that." That I was like, why don't we start really introducing people to that kind of thought? So I want to have like a
don't
session.
Don't be scared, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It almost makes people uncomfortable to go, but it's meant to not sell anything, but it's meant to really say, no, this works. Don't let your fears. Don't be adverse to risk.
Right.
Challenge the risk and take it on and see where it leads.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to see more things like that happen as a way to, again, let's start building our own high growth entrepreneurs by getting them connected with the talent that's coming here.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna switch gears to some fun,
I like it.
Mad Libs, fill in the blank. Questions about networking and kind of doing business here in Las Vegas.
Okay.
So you just fill in whatever comes to mind when I ask you these questions.
Sure.
When doing business in Las Vegas, it's essential to have a solid strategy for
staying out of the sun. That's it, right? I always say that it's not about parking closer to the
to the shade or to where you need to walk in?
Yeah, to the grocery store or to the establishment you're going for. It's to find that one tree that has that one twig that happens to be covering a little bit of that parking space.
Right.
And you find that, that's what I would say is the biggest lesson to learn when you come here to Vegas. Is watch out for that sun and learn how to work it.
Speaking of that, so what's one thing that every new tech founder should know before doing business here in Las Vegas?
I would say get involved in about everything you can do. We were just talking about this. Vegas is a small community in a bigger, I guess, metropolis valley, however you want to call it.
A big space.
Yeah.
Few people.
And there's so many people guessing here, but really the core, community is quite small.
Right.
And show up to 5 events. Next thing you know, everybody knows you, right? And I think it's you show up to enough events and people start thinking they see you at other events. And so you have to get involved. And Vegas is weird, right? I remember again growing up here, someone came from another state and they said, Vegas, everybody has walls and it's private. And I don't even know if I have neighbors, I never see them, because there's different shifts and stuff like that.
Right.
So it can be very easy to get stuck within your own little small wall community and not go out. But really, once you do, you're going to find that core group and you're going to get recognized quite quick.
Yes.
And especially if you're a transplant here, it's really good to know a local. Locals used to have a lot of value. Natives had a lot to value. I'm a native. I know so-and-so. I now trust you. So you definitely need to engage.
Need to engage and get out there.
Yeah.
The best way to unwind after a long work day is to indulge in some blank to recharge for the next day.
Oh, you're talking about 53-year-old Josh?
Yes, it's different. It's different for everybody. You could be sitting on the couch with your wife and your dog, and
that's it. I think I've reached that point. I think back, right? We have two boys. I've been married for 30 years, and I was CIO and did other things, and I was never home. I was always working, and I got to the point where I value my time at home. And I go to bed earlier. So I'll tell you what I enjoy. I enjoy this. I enjoy sitting on the couch, eating dinner with my family, watching a TV show, and then just relaxing the rest of the night. Nothing crazy.
Sounds like me too. When I'm at my career.
What's funny is we always had a rule. We sit at the dinner table, dinner times at that time, and then our boys went to college, and me and my wife, Stacy, were like, let's sit on the couch and watch TV. And then we had one son that came back from college, and we're like, I guess, do we go back to the table, or do we just admit that, we're eating on the couch? So anyway, I enjoy it. I really do enjoy that family time. So that's a great way to wind down. I try to make it a point. 5 o'clock is my turn off. Yeah.
That's a great policy to keep.
Yeah.
Personal lightning round of a few. So we'll just tackle a couple. What's the most rewarding moment that you've experienced watching a student that you've maybe mentored succeed?
I think learning that they did something cool. I think that's about it. I've done internships. I've done mentorships. I've done for quite a bit. And then you just sort of lose touch, and then to come back and sort of see somebody that did it, I think that's always really cool. You know? So I don't know. I don't think I don't think there's a way to really have a big celebration other than go, all right, man, that's cool. You did it. Let me know if you need anything. I think you're all right. I was thinking back how I became into technology. It just so happened that I knew Excel. and and the reason I knew Excel was because of another situation, and it just was the right time to know some bits about computers, and next thing you know, I was, moving up the ranks and learning a lot and getting certifications, and then eventually becoming a leader of a company's technology side. I like to see that. I like to see people just take on the challenge and then move forward. You never know where it's going to end. I mean, who am I? I thought I was going to be a truck driver or something, growing up. And I went a completely different field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the last one. If you could bring any innovator or entrepreneur, past or present, to Las Vegas to mentor our community, who would it be, and what would you want them to share?
I am a big fan of Benjamin Franklin, and I would like that dude to come here and, I don't know, just spout some of the wisdoms that he's had. I don't know, he just seemed like a really cool character. So if it passed, I think that would be kind of neat. Something like it's pretty interesting what Benjamin Franklin would think of in today's modern technology.
What he would share with Las Vegas, huh?
Yeah, or that old wisdoms. I have no idea, but what he would say. But I think it would be quite fun to have a character like that. Sharing some of that old time wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, you think some of the innovations that are out there. It doesn't have to be. It could be just flying a kite with the key on it. And coming up with some sort of ideas. It's neat when you see that shift.
Yeah.
And thinking that really just changes direction or course of certain things. Right.
Right.
We might look back at that time. I guess Benjamin Franklin said it was so simple, but I don't know, man. I think that sparked a lot of other ideas that are out there.
Right. We really do kind of celebrate him as one of America's first innovators. So Yeah, I think that's a good one.
I think it'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I've had a really great, time chatting with you. Tell folks how they can learn more about Tech Alley or the companies that you founded, and how they can follow you.
The best way for you to find out about Tech Alley is to go to techalley.org, or the website, and on there we have the events. We have folks that you can engage with. You can start talking to other people within the community, see the resources that you need. I think that's the best. For Intagli, it's intagli.com. And you can check out that. I say, please check out that platform. It's really
that sounds really
very cool.
I think I will myself.
We started with 3D printing, and now we're doing engineering. So you can even connect with engineers, and they can design it. And do your projects as well.
Neat.
And IONnovate's a little on the back burner at this point, but I would say if you really want to engage your community, you got to be part of a community, right?
Yeah.
And I'll say this before we leave: Vegas is in a transformation period, and when you get that chance to help a community transform, and maybe your idea will be something that sparks or lives off of something long term here. I mean, growing up here, I used to do construction, carry sheetrock to have money for a date or a dance or something like that. And I still go around and say, hey, see those apartments over there? I carry the sheetrock for that, or I scrapped, I dug ditches for that one. And, and we don't have a lot of statues here in Vegas, but what we have is a lot of black and white pictures of somebody that did something cool, sitting on the back of a bar. And people go, oh yeah, I remember that guy. He was cool.
Yeah.
So right now we're really are transforming, and you need to be engaged with the community to be able to share your knowledge and your know-how, and you might be remembered as somebody that really sort of helped Vegas go into whatever the next direction or phase we're gonna mature to, because it's happening.
Right.
Take advantage of it. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that insight. I appreciate that. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. Be sure to follow us at GYC Vegas on Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our channel wherever you stream podcasts. And if you want to learn more about how your business can enhance its marketing efforts through the power of PR, visit our website at gycvegas.com. Thanks for listening to Get Your Chat On with GYC, and we'll see you next time.